Today we're going to talk about how we do the complete FPD process and the digital workflow in our company and how we are able to do that in a 1 day turnaround and how to make it predictable and have it where your patients are super happy. Okay. So a little bit about myself. I have 16 offices in the DFW area. We do about $28 million a year in revenue, and probably this year we'll probably be hitting our $30 million mark. So we use LuxCreo for our locations, and we use it to make FPDs on a daily basis. So we've been using LuxCreo for several years, so I'm going to kind of go over that a little bit more detail today. 3 years ago, I was having problems with traditional FPD process, and I met the LuxCreo team in Chicago, and then from there they kind of worked with us to make a process where we can give same day FPDs to everyone. So today, what we want is for you to walk away with some practical knowledge that you guys can use so you can start implementing this process in your dental office. Okay, I'm going to go over the digital workflow, why we decided to use LuxCreo instead of all the other printers out there, and the business advantage of of doing this in-house. Okay. So if you look here, there's no analog here. Every flipper on this screen was 3D printed. Okay. And here's the math that we kind of want to share with you. The lab costs of a FPD, you're looking at anywhere between $199 to $299. And that's money that you're sitting out every time you use an outside lab. But if you do it in-house with material and chair time, you're probably looking at $50 per unit. But the $50 per unit is probably on the high side because your team doesn't have to sit there for the full hour. A lot of time it's the carrying time and the print time. So I would say it'll cost around $30 per unit. But for easy math, we're just going to say $50 per unit. So because of this, you're probably losing about $149 every time you send this out. And if you're doing 40 FPDs a month, you're literally walking out with losing about $71,000 a year. And here's the challenge with the traditional manual process that people have. The first is slow turnaround time. You take an impression, send it to the lab, wait 2 or 3 weeks, have it come back. That's a long time, right? Second challenge is fit and adjustments. There's a lot of manual errors that you can have when you have a traditional partial. And it requires a lot of chairside grinding, causing frustration with patients and clinician. Once you dial in the process of the digital process, you save so much chair time. The third thing that is a challenge with the analog method is you have a lot of inconsistent quality control. And the reason because of that is your lab tech won't repeatedly repeat the same process one after another. But when everything is digital, everything can be very streamlined. And then the last thing is high lab costs. When you're outsourcing this, sending it out, you spend a lot of money on labs. So just doing this, you should save a lot of money by taking this in-house. Okay. The traditional flipper workflow from 2 to 4 days is you take an impression, pour the stone, send it to the lab, so you have that shipping time. The lab tech that needs to wax it up, invest, boil it out, then cure and then finish and polish. That can take 2 or 3 days in the lab. And that oftentimes the lab have multiple cases, so you're looking about 2 or 3 weeks to get that partial back. Luckily, with LuxCreo digital workflow, when you can do this in the same day. Patient come in, takes about your assistance about 5 minutes to scan, and A digital designer can take anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. On the high end, it's on a 30-minute time frame, but you can probably get it in 10 minutes. The 3D printing takes about 30 to 70 minutes. The washing and curing takes about 30 to another 20, 30 minutes, and 20 and 30 minutes. So with everything, you're looking at about 3 hours, which is a huge time saving compared to what the traditional workflow is. So my workflow from scan to delivery to full in-house. The first is intraoral scans. That's going to be a lot more accurate than taking a traditional impression. And there's no messy analog. And then if your staff loses the impression, you can just go to the computer and look it up again. So that alone is a huge win. The second process is the digital design. Well, we'll show you today the parameters that you should use so that there's minimum adjustments. And if there's too much adjustments, where you should tell your designers to make it where there's less adjustments for you. Okay. The third process is the LuxCreo print to cure protocol. So you have very, very consistent results. And the last part is how do you have a glass-like finishing, tongue friendly chairside result. Okay. So in exocad, the most important part to making your partial fit correctly is the virtual wax up bottom. And what you want your designer to do is make sure it's in the blue to greenish area. That is going to give you a very good fit. If it's too much red, you're going to have a lot of adjustments, a lot of adjustments that you'll have to do chairside, and it'll be too tight for some patients. So typically, I like it to have in the greenish area. Now, if it's all blue, it's gonna not have enough undercut and not have enough retention on your partial. So if you're having fit issues, this is typically where you need to have your designer make the adjustments. Okay. The next part is the print to cure protocol. The great thing about about LuxCreo is they streamline your print to make sure there's very, very minimum post-processing. They're going to orientate the print with the optimal print angle to minimize stresses and layer lines. The layer height settings, LuxCreo has validated the parameters so that the material fits every single time, right? The nice thing that I love about LuxCreo is they work the entire process from print all the way to cure. So it's a very, very consistent result. Their wash cycle, the exact time, how much IPA concentration for having a complete resin removal is already dialed in. Okay. They have a cure box, and the time, intensity, temperature, all that is baked in so that you have a consistent result every single time. Oftentimes, all dentists like to, get a cure box from this company, a machine from here, and a machine from there. When you do that, you don't know where your error is, right? LuxCreo has made it where from start to the very end, everything has been validated, and if there's an error, they know where it is. And because of that, you're going to have a very consistent finished product every time with your patient. So we're gonna LuxCreo in their software is one of the very few softwares out there. I think the only one where the support is very minimum, which saves time on your team because they don't have to spend all their time removing the support layers from the print job. So I'm going to kind of play this video here for you guys on that. Okay. So if you notice here, the support that was generated is perfect. All you have to do is just remove this tiny little layer right here, and you will have the base already made. So there's very, very minimum post-processing time. Okay. And same with teeth. When you put the teeth in, you know, let me just go back here. All the support is on the occlusion so that you can just put these teeth right in the socket. Again, the reason why is it saves you a lot of time for your team, for your staff, and it saves you time on labor costs because everything was digitally done correctly. Okay. And the great thing is about their software was it's one click base and teeth batching. So some softwares out there you have to manually do it teeth by teeth, base by base. This one you just load it and it will just automatically have everything pre-generated for you. And it's literally one click. Let's look at some of the print and post-processing steps so that you kind of understand how it works. The print, okay. So if you look here, the base of your gingiva, there's very minimum support that is required for your team to remove. And that's going to save your team so much time post-processing. Otherwise, some companies out there, what you do is you have to remove all these annoying little sprues off it, and that alone will take a lot of your staff time. And if you keep on looking, the teeth, all the support is just on the occlusion of it, making it very easy for you to seat the teeth on the base. Okay. Now let's look at the wash. Okay. So the nice thing about their wash cycle is the solution is already determined and it rinses it out and it you all the IPA is clean consistently every single time. And they have a special machine that does this. LuxCreo, their machine for their gearbox. Let me show you that. Okay. So all the time and all the settings are pre-generated already. So that whenever you post process, you're not going to overcure, you're not going to undercure. It's going to be very consistent every single time because it's already baked into the system. Okay. The last step with making your denture base is here. You're going to cure it, and you're going to just glue it in. Okay. We use Rodin into free glaze to make it very polished, and to make it very glazed, we use a naturalizing palette. So the finished product is going to be very glass-like, tongue-friendly polish. And the reason why we're able to do that is the team at LuxCreo, in their software, there's very minimum sprues in these areas. And because of that, post-processing it is going to be very easy. Okay. You'll just take a very rough burr, kind of grind out the sprues, use some abrasion and then some pumice. But majority of this is pre-polished already. It's very polished. Even if you don't do all this step, you're going to still have a very, very good polished finish product. Why is LuxCreo material better? They have a perfect flex strength balance. And they're engineered for flexibility and it seats partial comfortably while delivering durability. There's no cracking or warping over time. The one thing that I love about them is their print accuracy, and it's very, very consistent across multiple different batches. And the great thing about that is you know that your patient is going to get a very high quality finished product. Uh, you're going to get a superior aesthetics that is almost just like a conventional acrylic, and patients don't know the difference, right? Um, the other part that why we use LuxCreo is they have the easiest post-processing steps. They're streamlined and everything just works. It fits your patient every single time. And when things don't fit, it costs you a lot of money, right? So we use LuxCreo because I know that their finished product is going to give us the results that we want. Okay. So this is their flexible partial denture. It looks just like a regular another handmade. You literally patients can't tell the difference. Okay. Here are some of the results that we had in-house. Patient loved it. They literally could not tell the difference between if we gave them a Valplast or any other flexible partial dentures versus what we made with LuxCreo. The challenge with using acrylic before LuxCreo is we were spending $199 per unit. That was a lab fee. It consumed a huge portion of our margin before labor overhead was factored in. And I think the thing that really is the driving point to be digital is we now save 2 to 3 weeks. And because of that, patients are more likely, highly likely to say yes to treatment now because we can say, hey, we'll get your teeth this afternoon or next day, right? And the last thing is the remake is very, very low because everything is streamlined in a very, very nice manner. So our remakes with the FPDs now is significantly better than when we're sitting it out, getting it shipped, and sometimes our staff lose it. So remakes and redos is significantly better once we went all digital. So, I met them in Chicago, and it literally changed how we do our dentistry. I think our revenue has significantly jumped up since last time we met. We design it in-house, so there's no impression shipping, no lab intake, which is great. Then we print the same day. So if a patient came in at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., we usually can have it in by the afternoon for our patient. Okay, and if the patient came in the afternoon, say 2 or 3 o'clock, then we would have it next day because we don't work late. We don't work evenings. Okay. And with all those advantages, we still save money when it costs about $50 per case. And I would say it's more like 30 because that staff would probably be doing other things while they print. Most of the staff don't just sit there, wait for an hour to print. They're doing other things, right? So when you factor that in, it's actually less than $50 per unit. So here's the financial impact. You're going to get at least a 75% reduction in lab costs. Okay. Instead of being 199, you're probably looking at 50, more likely $30 per unit. But I would rather just estimate on the high side at $50 per unit. So you're saving about $6,000 a month. And over the course of a year, you're going to save about $72,000. Okay. And that money, you can do whatever you want with it. Patient and clinical impact. You're going to have same day, next day delivery for FPDs. You don't require temporaries, second visits, no waiting. So patient came in, you scan, have a designer to scan, and literally in a few hours, you'll have your FPD. And because of that, your case acceptance is going to significantly go up if your treatment planners or your OM can say, hey, Mr. Smith, we can get started today, and by this afternoon, you'll have some teeth, right? That alone, that increased case acceptance is worth the time an investment to get started. And patients are thrilled with the fit because it's very consistent. And our staff is thrilled with it because we know we'll get consistent result with it. So by using the LuxCreo, you're going to elevate your removable workflow, reduce adjustments, and have a lot more same day care. Okay.
Charles asks if you have any issues with adjusting occlusion at delivery.
No, we just, it's very minimum. And if it's high, if you consistently have a lot of occlusion issues, I think that's more with discussing with your designer to pinpoint how much occlusion you want on the teeth versus how much you don't want, right? Just work with whoever's designing your teeth, designing your FPDs to communicate with them correctly on that.
Absolutely. Greg, are you on right now?
I am.
We have a question from Randall who says that he has the scanner with the Glidewell branding and is asking if our software allows the design of FPD or if we send the design out to a third party.
Yeah, I was just responding to Randall in the chat, but happy to answer here instead. So the LuxCreo desktop software, so Lux Design and Lux Flow, do not have the ability to design the flexible partial, um, uh, and you do need to use a separate package or service in order to design that, like exocad that Dr. Pham just walked through, or LuxCreo does have a cloud service called Lux Cloud. It's available at dental.luxcreo.com. And we have a partnership with Evident and their EvaSmart designs to deliver flexible partial designs through that service on Lux Cloud.
Thank you very much, Greg. Um, Dr. Pham, Rhonda is asking what the lifespan of these partials are.
I can't give you a definite answer. I've been using it when you guys came out, but I don't have a study for that, so I'm not the best person to ask. But we haven't had
Absolutely.
any issues. And the great thing is, if you're doing it in-house, if there's an issue, they lose it or whatever, you don't have to charge them full price. The great thing is you have control the costs. That's really good. So for the design on the cloud, I have an in-house designer, so that would be more for you guys, Ethan or Greg.
We can likely follow that one up after the fact. I believe some of it is dependent on the selections that you make as part of the design, but we can get you a range and we can send that out to you. There was another question, Dr. Pham, from Charles Mascatello that said, when designing, can you block out severe undercut for better adaptability?
Yeah, so there's a free form um little button in exocad where you can block as much as you want or as little as you want. You can actually freehand it.
Thank you. And then Serge follows up, what is the distance in exocad between teeth and base?
I I I can't remember the exact number on that. It's just preset it. So in exocad there's a presetting when you just do your like a partial design. There's the generic presetting is good enough for us. We never had that issue of the exact measurement. But you can set the if you think it's too thin, you can actually set parameters to be thicker.
Excellent. Randall asked, how can we get hands-on training or video training for LuxCreo printers? Randall, you were the one that had the Glidewell branded printer solution, the FastPrint IO. If you want to work with your Glidewell account manager, let them know that you attended this webinar, and they can get you in touch with us to schedule either a hands-on training or a remote virtual instructor-led training, and we can make the time for that.
And I think LuxCreo, you guys have like workshops that you have in Chicago too, right?
We do conduct workshops in Chicago regularly. Yes.
Yeah, like I took my team to Chicago and they learned with the team at, LuxCreo. So if you're, I don't even think you guys charge for that. Is that correct? Or is there a minimum or anything like that?
There, it depends on the event.
Yeah. But that's a great way to get your team, if they know nothing about printing, send them to Chicago and just let them have fun with the team.
And we do have a lot of fun.
Dr. Pham, Paul here has a question asking, are you curing the rodent teeth with FPD with a hand curing gun? Because it looked in the video like you were doing it with like a handheld curing gun.
You can do, I prefer to just put it in the machine. It's a lot easier for us. But you can hand cure it too, yes.
I believe, just to add in there, I believe our official SOP is that you do a quick tack cure with a handheld UV unit, and then you finish it in the iLux Cure Pro. Serge asks, you cure with glycerin? No, I don't believe there's any glycerin that's a part of the process. Sorry, I should make that more direct. There is no glycerin in our cure process.
So Paul asks again, what light wave is needed to tack it?
Paul, I think we're going to have to get back to you on that one. Let me check on the wavelength of the units that we use in our lab.
I believe our cure is 385 and
Our
405.
our cure box is a multi-spectrum 385, 405, but the question was about the handheld unit, and I
Got
don't
it.
know off the top of my head if it's a single wavelength or a multi-wavelength.
All right, Ethan, I'm gonna log off. I think we're good, right?
Yeah, as long as there's
All
no
right,
other questions,
sounds good.
we'll have Dr. Pham log off, and anybody here can use the contact info that's listed on the screen to follow up with any questions. We'll be happy to help you offline. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.